What's up, gang? Hey, man. Just kind of a quick and dirty phone video today. Wanted to give y'all an update, but didn't have time really for the editing and stuff of my typical setup. Um, Last couple of weeks been a bit of a whirlwind. Is it whirlwind or I think it's whirlwind? Um, Always one of those words that I've said over the years, but never actually looked up the proper spelling or pronunciation. Honestly, don't even know the root of the world word whirlwind. I need to look into that. But as you guys might have known earlier last week, I talked to Tai Lopez on a 15-minute consulting call. It was like, just a really good coaching call, man. Forced me to make some decisions that I was procrastinating on as it relates to my business. So, Ty, one of the things he said was like, dude, you're going too broad. So, with Inquisitive Transactional on biggerdealstoday.com, I was targeting professional services firms generally. And Ty was like, dude, that's too broad. So, I decided to niche down to mid-sized law firms. So we're looking at law firms that are between 70 to 200-ish attorneys. That's pretty much like an industry that I have some credibility in, and the story makes sense. I had been in the big law space for about a decade at my previous position. Wasn't really working with the mid-sized firms quite so much. It was more like top 50, top 100 globally. But once you get to past 50, 75 attorneys, you start to have a sufficiently complex business with multiple offices, usually, oftentimes, multiple practice areas. So they're at a scale and a size where I really feel like I can add value. So totally remodeled the site on Bigger Deals Today, focusing on my ICP being managing partners of those firms. I had my first opportunity to sign a contract with this software company that wanted to make a dent here in the US, but I ended up just telling the dude, I was like, hey, man, focus has kind of shifted the last couple weeks. I don't think I could really, sign this contract and do this justice because I think it's going to take away from my new main thing. So that was kind of a bold and courageous decision for me because I haven't had money coming in consistently since May. So it was kind of like, do I make the decision out of scarcity today, get a little bit of money coming in every month, or is that going to take away from going after my new ICP? I decided ultimately it was going to take away from going after my new ICP. The cool thing is with my new ICP, my average deal size is going to be a good bit bigger. So it might take me 6 months, maybe a year to get in front of these decision makers that I'm trying to get in front of. But once I do, we're talking about pretty solid engagement sizes that I'll be able to have a lot more leverage, I would say, like in fewer engagements. So with that being said, man, choosing this kind of challenging ICP, managing partners of mid-sized law firms, I say it's a challenging ICP because attorneys are naturally skeptics and litigators, right? So we've talked about frame collisions on this channel. An attorney is always going to be trying to bust holes in your frame. So you have to come correct. You have to come with rigor around what you're pitching, and you have to really know the business, man. So this is a challenging path, but I think it makes sense given my career trajectory thus far, and it has the potential to be like a super lucrative path, I think. So with that being said, man, other things I've been considering the last couple weeks is decreasing my burn rate, like my monthly living cost burn rate. So I belong to a couple clubs. I like one was like a dining club, kind of networking thing. Cut my membership for that. Uh, Cut my country club membership. Um, Potentially considering getting rid of my house in the coming months, to be determined on that. I've owned houses since I got my first job out of college. I'm on my third now. I sold the other two. So I'm thinking about potentially selling this place because I got a roommate and it still cost me about $2,000 per month when you factor in my bills, insurance, all that stuff. So that's probably the biggest factor on my burn rate right now. Um, Other than that, like food's really expensive in the US because I've been eating between 220 and 240 grams of protein per day. So I'd like to get my food bill down as well. So with that being said, man, in a week or two, I'm going to be going down to my girlfriend's place in Mexico City for a few weeks. Looking at maybe starting to spend the majority of my time there next year. One, Mexico City's excellent networking. Two, food costs, eating out and groceries are about 50% cheaper. And three, my housing costs would go down to about a quarter of what it is right now. So I've been looking, I was reading something from Alex Hormozy. He was like, it's like you've got to be able to stay in the game long enough to figure it out, right? So that's what I'm trying to do by decreasing my burn rate right now. Yeah, and then simultaneously, this summer, as I was starting my business, one of my goals was this year, that I set early this year, was to learn how to sail. So I took my ASA 101 basic keel boat class last month, and then just this month, or I guess July, end of last week, I took my coastal cruising ASA course. We were up in a 34-foot boat. Amazing time, dude. I may have told you guys before, like my primary motivator is movement and freedom. Like I'm definitely an adventure guy. But obviously money, building wealth, etc. Having money's like fuel basically, right? So I need to obviously generate income, especially being on my own now. So I recognize that as a necessary precursor to the adventure. But sailing last week was awesome, dude. It helped me really kind of build the dream a bit and think about where I ultimately want to go direction-wise. Because the idea with this business that I'm building today is sort of getting in the position where I'm building sort of a mobile-first business. I definitely think I'll be spending time on site at clients' places, but just this idea of location independence most of the time, that's what I'm going for. So anyway, man, wanted to give y'all a quick update here. And just grinding away, dude. I've got like 3 AI agents working right now. One is creating these 10 to 15 page like executive briefings on my prospects. Really rigorous stuff. And then I'm feeding that document into my buyer psychology agent, which basically compiles the language that's going to build trust with my ICP based on that executive briefing. And then I'm eventually feeding both of those documents into my sequence generator, which creates like a multi-channel sequence that I put into Apollo and then reach out to these folks. So that's going to be a process of continuing to being tweaked. But any business, man, it's an uphill battle until you have the social proof. So like in my last role, part of why I was so successful as a salesperson in the app that I was selling is I had two really big firms in like PDF, like public case studies, who had used my product. So it was no longer me telling the prospect why they should buy my product. It was their peers in the industry talking about their experience on the product. That is, social proof is one of the major subconscious triggers of influence in human psychology. Social proof, authority, right? So any business is just a grind to get those first couple references. Even if those references are private, right, they go a long way. So that's sort of the uphill battle that I'm fighting right now. And if I can decrease my burn rate like I've been doing the last couple of weeks, get it down to the absolute minimal, I can lengthen my time in the fight to develop those initial contacts and get those initial people to take a chance on me, man. So anyway, bro, I'll leave it at that, but hope this was useful or cool or whatever you guys follow me for. I don't know. Maybe it's just to talk shit on the way that I'm wearing my hat or something like that. All right, much love. See you on the next one.